Coming up on Network Africa. Guinea confirms West Africa's first case of Marburg, a highly infectious disease in the same family as the virus that causes Ebola. 4 people killed by wildfires in the mountainous region of Algeria. Plus, Ghanaian embassy in the UAE debunks story making the rounds on visa-free travel between both countries. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shubowale. We begin here in West Africa, where health officials in Guinea have confirmed the region's first case of Marburg, a highly infectious disease in the same family of the virus that causes Ebola. Marburg virus disease is transmitted to people from fruit, bats, and spreads between humans through the transmission of bodily fluids. In response to this discovery, the World Health Organization says the virus needs to be stopped in its tracks. Cases are extremely rare, with the last major outbreak in Angola in 2005. It's a severe, often fatal illness with symptoms including headache, fever, muscle pains, vomiting blood, and bleeding. As of now, no treatment exists for the virus, but doctors say drinking plenty of water and treating specific symptoms improves a patient's chances of survival. To the COVID-19 pandemic now, Kenyan civil servants have been given 13 days to be vaccinated against COVID-19 or face disciplinary measures. In a statement, the head of public service said the order was as a result of the low uptake of COVID-19 vaccines among public servants, especially teachers and those in the security sector. According to him, some public servants had deliberately avoided getting vaccinated in order to stay away from work, a trend that was affecting the delivery of services. On Monday, Kenya reported 745 new coronavirus cases, raising the number of confirmed cases to 212,573 since the pandemic began. Last week, the government said it had administered more than 1.7 million AstraZeneca vaccines, most of them being first doses. Its target is to vaccinate 10 million people by the end of the year. Now, Kenyan journalist Abi Agina joins us now for more on this story. Abi, thank you so much for your time. What's been the reaction to the government's ultimatum to unvaccinated civil servants?
Well, thank you for having me. Caught me on the road, and in Kenya, it's a big conversation, especially for civil servants who have been up in arms, saying that it is not right for them to be vaccinated on a mandatory basis, because taking up the vaccine should be a voluntary affair, and there are various unions that have already come out saying that they will be challenging this in court. And at the same time, the union
Well, it seems we're having some issues.
Have maintained that It falls squarely on an individual to decide whether or not a very dicey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Abby, go ahead. We can hear you clearly now.
Sorry for that. Well, just back to the point I was making is that the Kenyan civil servants have taken up the matter with their various unions, where they will be seeking representation in court, because they're arguing that the decision to have them mandatory vaccinated is against their natural human rights. So it's a very emotive issue in the country, and we continue to get different reports from different parts of the country.
Yeah, the government has threatened disciplinary action to those who fail to comply. just tell us what those measures would be.
So, according to the circular that was issued to civil servants through the Secretary of Cabinet, that is Joseph Kinyua, he indicates that employees who will not be vaccinated, this will be treated as a disciplinary case, considering the fact that the civil servants are categorized as the frontline workers. That is the argument that is being fronted forward. But in equal measure, the country is preparing to receive about 13 million doses of Johnson & Johnson. And the government is hoping that if they are able to vaccinate all civil servants, and of course, the civil servants constitute a big percentage of the country's working force, they'll be able to ensure that the transition towards reopening the economy fully will be on course. So the vaccination of civil servants will see a it's going to be a big milestone for the country. But in equal measure, the concern around the disciplinary action, it is very, very ambiguous at this point in time. We haven't gotten much information as to what disciplinary action this will amount to. Will it see an employee being suspended from office? Will it also see an employee being sacked in the worst case scenario? Or will it see someone just being asked to take the vaccine? So it's very unclear at this point in time. It continues to evolve as the days go by.
All right, Shabi, thank you so much for your time and bringing us up to speed. And speaking of vaccinations, Somalia has received 108,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine donated by France through the COVAX facility. COVAX is a partnership between the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the World Health Organization to continue efforts to protect Somalia's population from COVID-19. Somalia says it will continue to prioritize frontline health and other essential workers in this next phase of the rollout of the vaccine. To date, an estimated 186,094 people in Somalia have received their first dose of the vaccine, and 92,792 have received their second.
To thank and appreciate this donation. There is another one coming in 2 weeks' time from France, and that will also help us bolster the vaccination rates in Somalia. We are going to work together with the Ministry and WHO to make sure that these vaccines are used as quickly as possible, and we call on the people to make themselves available to receive them as we go forward during the next few weeks and months.
A UAE firm linked to a member of the country's royal family has agreed to refund about $2 million to Ghana's health ministry after failing to deliver 3.4 million doses of Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine. Local media outlets report that the doses were to be supplied by the end of June, but the West African country had only received 20,000 doses by early July. Health Minister Kwaku Ajiman Manu has been under pressure to seek a refund following the findings of a parliamentary committee that highlighted alleged breaches in the procurement of the vaccines. Sputnik V was unveiled last year as the world's first COVID-19 jab, but scores of countries say they've been let down by delayed deliveries. And now the Ghanaian embassy in the UAE is debunked stories making the rounds that Ghana passport holders can now travel visa-free to the United Arab Emirates. This follows the ratification by the Parliament of Ghana of the Memorandum of Understanding on mutual exemption of entry visa requirements between both countries. In a statement released, the embassy says even though the agreement has been ratified, the processes for implementation have not been completed. It adds that any changes to the current entry visa regime between Ghana and the UAE will be communicated officially. Joining us now is Joy News TV correspondent Daniel Dadzie for more on this story and reactions in Ghana. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us on the program. Just help us understand this story. What led to the news that Ghanaians can now travel to the UAE visa-free?
Well, as you stated in your intro, on the 5th of August, Parliament of Ghana ratified that agreement between UAE and Ghana, which stated basically that passport holders, diplomatic, special and ordinary passport holders, can travel to UAE without a visa. It was assumed by most of the media outlets which published this and by the general public that it meant that immediately this this arrangement would take effect. And I must say that the excitement that greeted this was precipitated by the fact that there is a lot of business which goes on between Ghana and UAE. There are a lot of traders who buy their goods in bulk from between Ghana and the UAE. I was actually having a conversation with a colleague who sells cars here in Ghana. He says that it takes him about 3 weeks to get vehicles from the UAE into the country. So they were very excited to hear this. And then later the clarification came that the agreement has been ratified by Parliament, which means it will happen, just not right now.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you know, the embassy says any changes will be communicated officially. Any idea when this news could come?
Well, we have been speaking to our sources within government, and they've been quite tight-lipped about this, but they say it will come as soon as possible.
All right, then, Joy News TV correspondent Daniel Dadzie, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed.
Thank you.
And now a big diplomatic dispute may be brewing between Nigeria and Indonesia following an assault meted on Nigerian diplomat in Jakarta. Nigeria is threatening to review its relations with Indonesia if the country fails to announce an appropriate measure against the immigration officials who carried out the brazen criminality against the diplomat. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyema today warned that such behavior against Nigerian diplomats will no longer be tolerated. He insists that the action is a breach of the Vienna Convention.
No! I can't breathe! No! I can't breathe!
And now wildfires in Algeria have left 4 people dead and 3 others injured in Kabylia, a mountainous region east of the capital Algiers. Algeria's state news agency said 2 people died in Atieni, one of Yekranane, and another in the nearby town of Azaga in the province of Tizi Ouzou. Videos show panicked residents fleeing on foot as flames threatened their homes. Much of Algeria has been experiencing drought-like conditions with temperatures of 42 degrees Celsius forecast later on Tuesday. Still to come on the program. Russian tourists enjoy Egypt's sunny beaches as flights resume 6 years after a deadly crash. More details after the break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Nigeria accounts for over 40% of all remittances to sub-Saharan Africa, but this trend appears to have slowed down, especially in the last 2 years. Opinions vary on the reason for the drop in remittances figures, with many analysts putting it down to the COVID-19 pandemic. But a report released by the World Bank in May 2021 shows that in spite of the pandemic, diaspora remittance flows saw strong growth in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa like Zambia, Ghana, Mozambique and Zimbabwe. So what happened in Nigeria? Our correspondent in London, Ijeoma Onyato, reports.
Remittances by Nigerians in the diaspora are the second largest foreign exchange earners for the country. But in the past few years, the remittances have dropped a bit. And why is that? Why are Nigerians in the diaspora not investing as much money and sending as much money home as they used to?
Leveraging investment partnerships is just one reason why National Diaspora Day this year focused on integration for peace and development. At a blended conference hosted by the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, participants spoke about the need to tap into the strength of Nigeria abroad. But a group of professionals around this table in northwest London also logged on, and they say a wider conversation must reflect the current realities of diasporans for reintegration to work.
It's actually disrespectful for them to talk about reintegration when Nigeria was the first place I'd ever lived in which my ethnicity was an issue. And I think it's the elephant in the room if we talk about reintegration when the federal government has a policy of isolating or deliberately diminishing the work ethic of particular minority groups.
These professionals feel there are gaps and a misalignment between what the government proposes to do and the expectations of those living in the diaspora. They speak of bureaucracy and red tape that often stands in the way of progress.
I actually started the process. I went to Yaba. I actually looked for the school of, where to register. I actually wanted to go through the whole process.
When was that?
You're talking about 10 years or more ago.
Okay.
I applied, filled out the application, paid my money to actually get so that I can start the process. Like I thought it would be as easy as coming to the UK when I see the foreign nurses come, they register with the NMC and they start the process of getting a placement. Because I was really interested to go back because for me, being a charity case is really not about the money. I would love to give back. Yeah. But as I speak to you, they never got back to me. The office moved from Yaba to Abuja, and that was the end of that.
Perhaps those were the days when there was no formal institution for engaging the diasporans. The chairman of the commission mentioned integration initiatives like the National Diaspora Policy, the proposed Diaspora Awards, and the Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit as engagement strategies.
I'll just say an integrated approach. We use all means, Nigerians already know about the commission that are there, our website. We're developing an app that will be available to every Nigerian in the diaspora. You can download the app and you can get a whole lot of information, of course, working with our missions.
And speaking of the task that lies ahead, the Director General of the World Trade Organization offers some insight.
So I think one thing you could do is really establish a one-stop shop where diasporans who want to do something at home can come and get information and get linked up to someone who would help them validate what they are doing. If they want to help in government, some of them have talents that we need. Why is it that Nigerians are doing so well outside, given their expertise in other countries? And here we have a country so large and we can't do that easily.
The conversations on and offline are critical as they serve as the echo chamber of voices responding to the call for reintegration towards national development. As things stand, it might take a concerted effort to tap into the economic and investment power of Nigerians abroad. In London, Ijoma Onyato, Channels Television News.
And now South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma's corruption trial, which was due to resume on Tuesday, has been postponed for medical reasons. His legal team applied for the postponement after the 79-year-old was admitted to hospital on Friday for an undisclosed condition. The trial relates to a $5 billion arms deal back in the 1990s. It's the latest in a series of delays in the trial, which also involved French arms company Thales. Zuma, who is currently serving a 15-month sentence for contempt of court in a separate case, will be expected to present proof to the court of his illness. The United Nations has condemned the attacks by an unidentified armed group in Mali. On Sunday, militants on motorbikes attacked 3 villages, killing many people. Security sources said they believe the attack is in revenge for the killing by the military of 2 senior jihadist leaders on Saturday. Islamist violence is intensifying across the Sahel despite the presence of local, regional and international forces.
And our colleagues in Mali at the UN mission there strongly condemned the barbaric attacks against civilians that took place yesterday near the town of Watakuna and other nearby localities, all in the area in Mali that also borders Niger and Burkina Faso, which has seen a recent increase in violence. According to our colleagues in the field, members of an unidentified armed groups are responsible for this act. Local sources tell the mission that the provisional toll could be more than 50 dead and several injured. These deliberate attacks against civilian populations constitute a serious violation of international human rights and international humanitarian law. Arrangements are underway for the deployment by the peacekeeping mission of a field mission to secure the scene, as well as the intensification of patrols in the affected areas and coordination with the Malian security and defense forces.
Well, still on security matters, Botswana's President Mokgweetsi Masisi has launched a military mission in Mozambique to help fight an Islamic State-linked insurgency in the country's northern Cabo Delgado province. Accompanied by Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi, Masisi toured various bases where the Botswana and South African troops will be stationed. In the meantime, Energy Minister Max Tonella says military advances against armed groups in Cabo Delgado province is a very important step for the resumption of natural gas projects. On Sunday, the military confirmed the seizure of the key port of Mocimboa da Praia by Mozambican and Rwandan forces. According to the UN, an estimated 200 million girls and women worldwide have been subjected to FGM, which usually involves the partial or total removal of the external genitalia, with Somalia having the world's highest rate of FGM, with 98% of women affected by the practice. While a former Somali refugee is calling for a total eradication of the practice that takes place in at least 27 African countries and parts of Asia and the Middle East. She was a victim herself, but is now an anti-FGM activist in her host country, Ireland, with a foundation advocating for the eradication of FGM in Somalia.
I wanted to make a difference because we all know that FGM causes that and also a kidney failure, and then it causes a lot of health consequences. It's very important that not only Somalia but girls, women and girls around the world, a country where FGM is practiced, and also the girls who are born in European cities and including Ireland are protected from the practice.
We end the program in Egypt now to, well, join Russian tourists lounging by the beach at one of Egypt's Red Sea resorts as flights have resumed to Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada for the first time in nearly 6 years after Moscow had banned them following a deadly plane crash. Excited to be able to take direct flights to the sunny resorts, tourists swam, snorkeled and enjoyed various other water activities and sports. On Monday, a Rossia Airlines flight welcomed by a water cannon salute in Sharm el-Sheikh arrived from Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport with 517 tourists on board who were greeted with roses and flags. Another of the airline's flights arrived in Hurghada from Moscow carrying 518 passengers aboard. Russia stopped flights to Egypt after a Metrojet plane taking Russian holidaymakers back from Sharm el-Sheikh to St. Petersburg broke up over the Sinai Peninsula in October 2015, killing all 224 people on board. Flights had also been stopped to Cairo but were resumed in 2018. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboali.